Hi, it's your girl Trudy, and you're tuned in to Hair Talk with Trudy. So today we want to talk about Locs startup, everything that it entails that comes under locking, whether we're grooming, whether we're starting. And today we're going to start off with the startup of locks and the different methods that we have in locking your hair, whether it's with or without extensions. And so we're going to go off with our first method. Our first method is called rope twist interlock, where we wash, blow dry, and we rope twist the hair as if you were just wearing your hair rope twist naturally. However, we kind of rope twist it about an inch away from your root, and so we are able to interlock the roots and allow the body of the twist that we have created to start forming on its own. That takes, for someone who wants to start out with that method, it takes them maybe 8 months to a year for their hair to form fully or get in the process of forming fully where locks is concerned. With that also, it depends on the length of the hair. So if the person have maybe a 5 or a 6 inch length, the locks formation will be less in terms of the time it takes to form or bud. If the hair is longer, maybe a 12 or a 14 inch length, then that will take a little bit more time for the formation of the lock to take place, because the formation starts from the root where we're going to be interlocking, and so we have to allow that to start forming all the way down. So for persons with like a 5 or a 4 inch, that takes less time to form. For 12 to 15 inch, 14 inch, that takes a little bit more time, within a year and a half. And that's the rope twist interlock. And so we're going to go on to our second method. Our second method is called tip to root. And tip to root, it's somewhat mimic what sister locks would look like. However, we are doing them in a more standard form version. So we're interlocking the hair again from the bottom up it's a crochet kind of method, but however we kind of tweak it a little different so that the hair can still formulate the lock format when it gets to that stage. Again, for those persons with short hair, the tip to root will take less time to form. The longer the hair, the longer the time. However, the tip to root is a little bit more quicker of formation than the rope twist interlock, because we are literally forming the hair from the bottom all the way up. So what will take place now is the budding stage, where the hair starts to become fuzzy, as persons would call it. It looks fuzzy and it seems unkept, and that's when the formation of the lock starts to take place. That's when you come back to us, we wrap the loose hair onto the hair. Guys, let me just pause for a second. Please do not, we need to educate ourselves. Our stylists need to know that the loose hair that comes onto the body of the locks, whether the locks is fully mature or whether the locks is in the process of forming, the loose hair is what keeps the lock stable. The loose hair onto the body of the twist, the tip to root, is what creates the fullness of what lock should look like. So a lot of times persons come and you find that the stylist will trim off the loose hair around the body of the lock. That's a no-no. We need to maintain the loose hair around the lock, because that is what gives the lock its strength. That is what gives the lock its personality. That is what gives the lock the momentum to create the volume it needs to sustain over the period of time. So I just wanted to pause and just to make sure that we understand that the loose hair on any locks is not to be cut off. We're not to cut them off. We're supposed to have a method of wrapping them over and making sure that they stay onto the twist or to the mature lock so that they can stay formed and full. All right, so we've gone through the rope twist interlock, we've went through tip to root, and we have another method for persons with shorter hair, a 4 inch, a 5 inch. I've seen persons with longer hair that wants to try the comb twist, but for me personally, I find that the comb twist forms faster with shorter hair than it forms with longer hair. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it can't be done, but I personally find that it's a nicer form when the hair is at least 5 or 6 inch. When it's longer, the formation takes a little bit more time to pick up than when it's shorter. So that's the method. It's called a comb twist, where the hair again is washed. It's not blown out because we need to use a comb with whatever formation, whatever gel we choose to use to make the coils to go along and make the formation, whether you're going to make them small or medium size, but we keep them standard anyways so that those can start creating the lock. What I find with comb twist is that if you're not, for us, we try to interlock them maybe 2 weeks in the formation of the comb twist to kind of hold the roots so that they don't unravel. Most persons will complain about them unraveling, especially to the back of the hair, because that's where most persons have the softer part of the hair. Hairline also, washing your face, the edges tends to come out. So we try to do an interlock on them, and then the client can make a decision on whether or not after that first interlock they would want to continue with interlocking them, or they'll transition the comb twist back into its palm roll stage, and that's an option. So we've gone through our rope twist interlock, or tip to root, or comb twist. We have another method that's called instant lock, where we are now forming with a 0.5 needle. We're forming onto the hair. We're literally forming onto the hair, and the name instant is absolutely what it means. It's instant gratification. It is hair that is right away formed, so you look like you have locks. A million years. Those are our startup without extensions for persons who are interested in forming their locks. How do I know what method to start with? And that's a good question. For us, we ask our clients to come in for a consultation, so we can definitely take a look at the hair, see what texture the hair is, and that will determine what method we use to start up. So for example, if someone comes in with very thick hair, a lot of times it's really more preference than it's preference based on the texture of the person's hair. Now someone may want it, the person who with very thick hair may want very thick locks, but what if the hair, when it is formed, is going to be too big? Then based on the stylist and her knowledge of how the startup would take place would determine what method of startup that person should use, not may use, should use. And that decision is not up to the stylist alone, because of course the person who is wearing it needs to have that insight on how the hair may or perhaps will come out, and if it is that they're going to like what it looks like after it's done. So for us, we try our best to encourage persons to come in. We take a look at the hair, we give them all the different methods of startup, and again for us it's really giving you the idea of what your locks may look like, because we really don't know what it will look like as it grows. We can only summarize that yes, if we start up with a rope twist interlock, depending or based on the texture and the volume of the person's hair and the size of how we part it, what it may look like eventually down the road, maybe a year or two. So we try to encourage and to kind of work with the texture of the hair, the size of the parts, and the method of the person starting the hair with the texture. Because the texture and the method is very, very important. And so for example, again, a person with much lighter hair would want to start with a rope twist interlock, and that may not work for their hair because it's light. And so you want to start up with something that will grab the hair fully, that you don't have to worry about that in-between stage and how it may look, whether we're going to work, whether we're in corporate world or whether we're just working. And I mean, whether it's corporate or whether it's your work, you still want to look decent and appropriate for work. And we try to encourage that. So again, persons ask a lot of times, what method of startup should we use to create the lock? And we encourage them to come in, we take a look at the hair, We look at the size, the length, the volume, and we make that decision based on the texture of the person's hair. Thanks for tuning in. Always remember to like, to share, and to subscribe to my channel. See you soon. Ciao.